Spring is finally here. The air is warmer, the last snowdrifts have melted, and millions of avid gardeners are itching to get in their backyards and plant. But what will the growing season be like this year? Climate change has made growing conditions unpredictable. Will it be too wet, too dry, cooler than usual, or most likely even hotter? Expert gardeners say the effects of climate change may be extreme, but with a little knowledge of natural science, savvy gardeners can adapt to these extremes and even help to improve climate overall.
The science makes it so that you're more adaptable. You know what's going on. Say if you have a dry year or if you have a cold season, you know how plants work, and you can apply these principles. It makes you a more resilient gardener and garden.
That's Lee Reich, author of The Ever-Curious Gardener, using a little natural science for a much better garden.
If the weather changes or the climate changes, which is happening now, with changes in climate, or if you move to a new location, everything that you did in that first location might not be applicable because you didn't really know why things were happening. You did this one year and this happened, so it must be true everywhere, but it's not true everywhere. So it really makes for a more resilient gardener and garden if you know why things are happening.
For example, let's say you had a very wet season last year that washed away many of the nutrients in your soil. Reich says cover crops such as oats or rye can help to replenish the soil.
Not because I'm going to be harvesting the oats, just because the oats can improve the soil. Especially now, there's a lot of interest in the science behind this, but the oats and other plants put chemicals out in the soil that help bind the soil particles together to make for a better soil texture. Nutrients in the soil that can just wash out certain times of year if you have heavy rains. So these cover crops can actually grab onto these nutrients, hang on to them, put them up into the leaves, and then keep them from washing down through the soil, put them back near the surface.
Compost is another great way to enrich the soil. Knowing a little bit about the science of composting can result in more nutritious vegetables on your dinner plate.
I happen to really like making compost. So I actually make a lot of compost every year. There's a whole science to making compost of how you balance out what materials you put in. You make sure it's moist enough, make sure there's enough air. Any organic material can be composted. That material might be manure people often get from a farm. It could be autumn leaves. It could be grass clippings. It could be kitchen waste. So if you know the science behind it, you can take into account what materials you have on hand for composting and balance them out in such a way that you get better compost.
For instance, what is the carbon to nitrogen ratio in your compost? Think of it as eating a balanced diet. Just as we need a balanced ratio of protein, fruits, vegetables, and carbohydrates for optimal health, the microorganisms in your compost need a balanced diet for the same reasons.
So if you have a lot of sawdust, for instance, this is very high in carbon and very low in nitrogen. So it will compost. As I said, anything will compost if you leave it long enough, but it'll take a really long time. It can sit for years before it becomes compost. But if you had a high nitrogen material, which could be manure, it could be a seed meal like soybean meal. It could be vegetable waste is often high in nitrogen. So if you mix this high nitrogen material with this super high in carbon material, you get a better balance, and this makes it compost faster, so you don't have to wait as long for the compost. And you get the more different materials you mix into the compost, it makes for a more balanced diet, both for the microorganisms and hence also for if you're growing vegetables, you get more nutrients in the food that you're going to eat. So 90% of being a really good gardener, just add a lot of these to your soil every single year, and you're 90% of the way there.
But how can your gardening choices and techniques contribute to a healthier environment?
We did not debate climate change. We just said, okay, let's roll up our sleeves and do something. What can we do as individuals and as communities and schools and small landowners? What can we do that will make a difference? And it's true that while one small landscape is not going to make a huge difference, there's millions and millions of people with small landscapes, so that all together we can make a huge difference.
That's Ginny Steibold, co-author with Sue Reed of Climate-Wise Landscaping, Practical Actions for a Sustainable Future. Steibold outlines 3 actions landscape owners can take to use less energy and be better stewards of the land.
One is to have your landscape be more resilient in the face of climate change. The second one is to support wildlife, and the third one is to actually mitigate climate. So if you plant a tree, it cools the air. It actually cools the air because the water evaporates out of the tree. So I just keep working at it, and Sue does too. We just keep working on this message because more people have to start thinking about their own environment, not letting things go in with a typical landscaping scenario.
Let's take lawns, for example.
We've had a love affair with lawns, and they used to be small, easygoing lawns that you mowed with a hand mower back in the 50s, but they've expanded to insane sizes. And we're putting all kinds of poisons on them to keep the weeds out and to keep the insects out and to keep the funguses out. And then because we're also weakening the grass with the poisons and we're killing the soil, then we put synthetic fertilizers on them and overwater them so that it's really a synthetic land cover. But what we say is that let your lawn go natural and stop all the inputs. Make it smaller, of course, replace a lot of it with other kinds of features in your landscape. But what's left, let's let it alone. Let's liberate the lawn and let it just survive on its own. And when it goes dormant, it goes dormant. You let it go dormant.
If you can bear to do that, Steibolt's second action, supporting wildlife, will most likely take care of itself.
The most charismatic wildlife that we end up talking about the most are the birds and the butterflies and the pollinators. So that if you have a butterfly garden to attract the monarchs and stuff like that, then you can't be having a landscape-wide insecticide because it's going to kill them.
Steibolt says a natural lawn is also safer for pets and humans.
There's been scientific studies saying that if you spend time in nature, that you will be healthier, your blood pressure will go down and that kind of thing. But if you stop putting poisons on your lawn, then that lawn and your landscape is safe for you and your pets and your kids 100% of the time, and not the 3 days that they ask you not to go on it after they apply the poison.
Steibolt says that going with a natural lawn also reduces our carbon footprint.
There's a huge footprint in the manufacture of the insecticides and the fungicides and the herbicides and transportation costs to get it to the lawn service people, so that it actually costs a lot to the climate to actually get it to your yard. And then it works to reduce the effectiveness of your yard to host the butterflies and the birds.
But if giving up your beautiful green carpet of a lawn is too bitter a pill to swallow, Steibolt has other ideas to encourage wildlife to your corner of heaven. You can read all about them in her new book, Climate-Wise Landscaping. You can also learn more about Reich's new book, The Ever-Curious Gardener, by visiting our website at viewpointsonline.net. This week's show was written and produced by Evan Rook and Polly Hansen. Reed Pence is our executive producer. Our studio production is done by Jason Dickey. I'm Marty Peterson.
Viewpoints returns in just a moment.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control of your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank accounts, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problem now by calling the experts at U.S. Tax Shield and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws clause that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. U.S. Tax Shield offers a price protection guaranteed quote to get you protected today. U.S. Tax Shield is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, so call now. 800-568-1647. That's 800-568-1647. U.S. Tax Shield. 800-568-1647.
What are you going to do with your old car? You can try selling it, you could junk it, or you can donate it to Heritage for the Blind. Your car will be towed away for free and your donation is tax deductible. Just call 1-800-835-1478. Heritage for the Blind accepts cars, vans, trucks, and boats. It doesn't matter if your vehicle runs or not. It will be towed away for free, and you'll be supporting those that need help. Heritage for the Blind is a nonprofit organization that helps the visually impaired live fuller lives. Call right now to donate your car, and as a special thank you, you'll receive a free 3-day vacation voucher to over 50 locations. Call Heritage for the Blind right now. Call 1-800-835-1478. Donating is easy, and your vehicle is towed away for free. Plus, you'll get a free vacation voucher for donating. Call now, 1-800-835-1478. That's 1-800-835-1478.
And that's Viewpoints for this week. Viewpoints is a production of MediaTrax Communications. You can follow us on Twitter and Facebook to learn about upcoming shows and find a library of past programs on iTunes. Plus, you'll always find podcasts of our segments and information about our guests at viewpointsonline.net. Join us again next week for your public affairs magazine, Viewpoints.